Hello, and welcome again to another episode of This Song Sucks, a podcast where three pals get together and talk about the music that we hate. I'm Josh Kavanaugh, and joining me, as always, is Hayden, back in Seattle again. Crawford, how's it going, Hayden?
It's pretty good, man. Just nibbling on some sponge cake over here.
All right, nice. And we've got a very special guest with us today, the Sulligent songwriter, the crusher of Red Bulls. He's doing it right now. He's the rooster to our Sally. Blaine Duncan, everybody.
Keep going.
You got your blueberry or what?
It's it's whatever. Cosmic Stardust is the technical.
Cosmic Star? That sounds like a fucking Peppers song.
It sounds like a strain of weed.
Slightly different effects there, right?
Well, I hope.
Well, Blaine, he's the host of our sister podcast on the Alabama Take, Taking It Down. He's been so kind as to join us today, and he's the one that's brought us in the song. Blaine, why don't you tell us what we're going to be talking about today?
We're going to be jamming Kenny Chesney's The Good Stuff, circa 2002.
Yes, sir, 2002, Mr. Kenny Chesney, The Good Stuff. So we'll just go through a quick little bio hit on Mr. Chesney. Born Kenneth Arnold Chesney in March 1968. Yeah, hey Arnold. Mm-hmm. He was born in Knoxville, but raised in, I've never heard of this place, Luttrell, Tennessee.
Knoxville. That's a bastion of culture and integrity in the South.
The town he's from, Luttrell, as of the 2010 census, has a population of just over 1,000 people. So, there's some real small town country music bona fides right there. He received his first guitar as a Christmas gift. I didn't know what age it was or what year, but I imagine was fairly young because he nicknamed it the Terminator. Some sources called it the Terminator, but he had a cute little nickname for his guitar there, starting out.
He was 23.
Wait, the Terminator?
Yeah, one source said the Terminator, but most of them said the Terminator, and I could find no other reference to what the hell that meant, but who knows. Here's another interesting factoid from his childhood. In 1982, so he was 14 years old at the time, apparently Mr. Chesney won the award for Best Male Yodeler at the International Yodeling Competition in Zurich, Switzerland.
Who hasn't won that?
Just about everybody, right?
Anyone who's won that's probably blew out a few flip-flops in their life, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Stepping on pop-tops and whatnot.
After his international fame with yodeling, apparently he started to try his hand at songwriting. Again, I could not find a exact time period for this, but apparently the story I found that he wrote his first song for a girl he was hoping of, making her his girlfriend.
Don't be crass, Josh.
Well, it apparently didn't go so well because she rejected both the song and him. So he was off to a rough start as a career as a songwriter. So the next little bit is in 1989. So he's studying advertising at East Tennessee State University, and he records a self-release demo, which, according to what I found, sold a whopping 1,000 copies while performing at local clubs in Johnson City, Tennessee. So, that ain't nothing.
Of Old Crow Medicine Show lore, Johnson City, Tennessee.
Yes, exactly. That exact Johnson City, Tennessee. I guess that's where East Tennessee State is. But, he was in a fraternity at the university there, so he's probably...
That is the least surprising fact you've given so far.
Yeah. Yeah.
You mean he was a frat boy? Wow.
It probably could have been left unsaid. But, he's probably, with that, he's probably playing frat shows or local clubs and bars and stuff.
I tell you what he's definitely doing is 2.7 seconds on a bull named Fu Manchu. Am I right? Wait, what song are we doing again?
It's The Good Stuff, Hayden. We're talking about Kenny Chesney.
Oh, my bad.
So after he graduated, he moves to Nashville and he starts, performing at the various clubs and honky tonks. But his first real break into the industry came in 1992, where he was awarded a songwriter's contract. So not a recording contract, but a songwriter's contract after auditioning for the Opryland Music Group. But a year later, an appearance in a songwriter showcase led to an actual recording contract with Capricorn Records. And that first record came out in 1994. And he has released a new album pretty much every year since then. So he stays busy, especially with touring. He's headlined a tour every year since 2001. And the sources I found estimated his yearly income at around $42 million.
Whoa.
Which is, probably mostly from touring. So he's road dogging it pretty hard.
That's not road dogging it, buddy.
Oh, well, yeah, what he's doing is definitely not road dogging. He's probably got like the freaking palace of touring vans.
That's cheeseburger and in paradise is what that is.
Again, Hayden, we're not doing Jimmy Buffett.
Wait, what song are we doing?
The Good Stuff by Kenny Chesney.
Oh,
not,
yeah.
Not Cheeseburger in Paradise. Sorry.
No booze, no squirt, big problem, right? That's the record, isn't it?
Blaine, what do you think about all this ugly talk from Hayden so far?
Just wait till I uncork.
Just wait till that Red Bull flows through them veins.
So, I mean, that's pretty much all I have for his bio stuff. I mean, I didn't know much about him because I'm not really plugged into country music. He's one of the most popular acts in the genre. But the one little tidbit story I found I thought was pretty funny. In June 2003, Mr. Chesney was arrested along with fellow country singer Tim McGraw. And the circumstances around this is from an article I found where somebody had interviewed the sheriff in Buffalo, New York, actually, about what happened. So the story is that Chesney and McGraw had just finished performing as an opening act for the George Strait Country Music Festival in Buffalo, New York.
And then they went to get wings, I assume, right?
That was probably their plan, but I think they got derailed by this little incident with the arrests. So the two singers apparently were hanging outside of the stadium in this kind of area for artists, and there was a police officer with a horse. Chesney goes up to him and asks him if he could ride the horse. And the officer let him get in the saddle, but apparently Chesney just started riding the horse away, ignoring, I think there are two officers, yelling at him, chasing him, telling him to stop, and he just ignored them and kept riding away on this horse. But then as the officer started chasing him, McGraw and then some other guy who was one of their managers or something jumped the officers on their back and got in a scuffle with them. Apparently McGraw put one of them in kind of a chokehold.
How much cinnamon whiskey did these guys take down?
Well, apparently the sheriff, when he was interviewed, he said that he was, quote, not aware of alcohol being a factor in the incident.
Yeah, right.
White privilege was, though.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, so these guys, all three of them get arrested. Chesney is cited for disorderly conduct, but McGraw is actually arrested for second-degree assault and resisting arrest, which is...
Take that, Tim.
A much more serious charge. But of course, because this is the way our justice system works, them being both white and famous, it went to a jury trial. They were found not guilty on all charges. And apparently at some point, as they're leaving the courthouse, they're signing autographs.
When you got chill Buffett vibes, but even buffer arms, you probably get out of those kind of situations pretty easily. Just show those guns off.
Do you think Kenny Chesney showed up to the courtroom in a suit with no sleeves on it?
I would only hope. And a blue out flip-flop.
So, yeah, I mean, that's really the only thing I found kind of interesting or humorous about him is Kenny Chesney trying to ride away on a police horse.
That's pretty good.
But as I mentioned earlier, I'm not too up on the pop country. I mean, I've heard of Kenny Chesney before and probably couldn't tell you the name of the title of one of his songs until I researched him a little bit this week. But, he's had an album every year since 94. So I'll just kind of give a highlight of his chart and sales success. So of all these albums, 19 of them are studio albums. He has 4 of these albums are multi-platinum, with the highest being quadruple platinum. 7 of them are single platinum and 4 are gold. He also has 3 greatest hits albums, one of which is quadruple platinum and one of which is single platinum.
So he's a marathon runner here. He's not stacking up 7, 8 platinum records. He's just making everything he's doing is going platinum 1 or 3 times.
Pretty much. I mean, all but I think maybe 3 or 4 of them, and they're more recent, are certified gold or above. But I mean, he's clearly one of the more successful country music acts, as far at least as selling albums and singles is concerned. So just to look at his Billboard numbers, He's had 94 songs on the Hot Country Songs chart. 54 of them are top 10 hits, and 23 are number 1 hits on that chart. But as far as crossover appeal, he has 56 songs that have appeared on the Hot 100. I think the highest was like 16, but his average chart position there is about 45. And then of his albums, 21 of them have appeared on the 200 chart, and 9 of those have been number 1. So, I mean, looking at those Billboard numbers, he's obviously had, especially the Hot 100, he's probably one of the more successful country artists at crossover appeal.
I absolutely remember that being the case with him. And then I know we're going to talk about this more later, but yeah, his genre fusion and crossover likability was kind of the beginning of the end for country music in that era.
Oh, yeah. Well, we can definitely talk more about the details of that. But yeah, I mean, I just bring this up because if you're like me and you don't know a lot about country music, I knew he was big, but I didn't quite realize how huge he was.
You must not spend enough time in Z71 trucks in high school, Josh.
I think you did spend a little more time hanging out in the back of Z71s.
Mountain Dew bottles rolling around, subwoofers blaring.
Oh man, classic.
Suicide debates.
Yeah, getting into some real deep convos for sure, Blaine. But one last little bit here on the Grammys. He's been nominated 6 times, but has never won. Most of them come from like Best Country Performance, either as a solo or a duo act. And he's had 1 Country Album of the Year nomination.
I want to interject you briefly in relation to the country performer thing, because this relates directly to this argument I found on a Telecaster forum for old white men who want to show off their Telecasters and argue about music. But I found this argument about Kenny Chesney being nominated for the Performer Award, and it kind of sparked this whole giant trail of talking about how he can't play the guitar and he's not worthy of that award in general. But this one particular individual had a lot to say about it, whose name is Urban Paisley Fan. And I just want to read y'all a little bit of what Urban Paisley Fan has to say about Kenny Chesney.
Okay, shoot.
So I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I can't seem to understand why Kenny Chesney is such a god in the country world. I mean, I've been to his show, I almost fell asleep. What makes people love him? Yeah, maybe he does write his own songs, but so does Keith and Brad, and they can wail on the guitar, spelled W-H-A-L-E and capitalized.
Oh, Blaine, you look tickled by that one. What's your username on the Telecaster forum, by the way?
Mine or Hayden's?
Yours, Blaine.
I'd be more interested in Hayden's because he's actually out there digging around on them.
Mine's Teletubby69.
I do own a Telecaster.
Well, that's why I ask. I know that when we played together, that's what you were rocking. So
I don't do the boards. I don't hit the boards much.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
The only follow-up comment to this, hang on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hold your horses, Josh. Just like the cop. The only follow-up comment to this that I really wanted to bring up was just one person who said, the thing about Kenny Chesney is I can't stand Jimmy Buffett.
So you're not the only one getting them confused, is what you're saying.
It seems not.
Well, it's interesting that comment talked about how Kenny Chesney, I know he writes his own songs and all, quote, but as we'll see, that's not quite the case.
Yeah, not the case at all, actually.
But before we get into that, we're going to talk about the one album in a little more detail, The Good Stuff. Again, Hayden, we are doing The Good Stuff by Kenny Chesney today.
She was killing me in that mini skirt. Right? Did I get it that time?
Is that it?
Is that the song?
Yeah, I think it is.
Well,
Okay.
I guess we'll find out. The Good Stuff comes from his 6th studio album entitled No Shoes, No Shirt, No Problems.
Which is weird because it's usually no service, you know? It's usually, that's what people say, and then he changed it to no problem.
I gotta say, I got no problem with that lifestyle.
That's a brave choice. Let's applaud that brave choice.
Okay, quick applause for Kenny Chesney, honestly.
Brave title choice. No problem.
He's a bold dude.
Dude, how many people do you think were listening to that album in their truck and then they walked into their local Ryan's or Roadhouse and saw that sign and went, oh, hell, I get it now?
I think they probably were more likely to walk into a Salt Life.
With no shirt and no shoes.
But they do like Ryan's yeast rolls, I'd assume.
Probably so. Anyway, the album was released in April 2002. This was his first album to reach number 1 on the Billboard 200 chart. And there were 5 singles from this album. All of them were top 10 songs on the Billboard Hot Country chart. And all of them also appeared on the Billboard Hot 100. The Good Stuff itself was one of the number 1s on the country singles chart. And it stayed there for 7 weeks, which was a record for Chesney at the time. And The Good Stuff itself reached number 22 on the Billboard Hot 100, which was one of his higher showings. So this is a good example that you picked, Blaine, because it probably is one of his biggest crossover hits. And it was also named by Billboard as the number 1 country single at the end of the year. So that's the end of the year chart. Making that number 1 is a lot harder than hitting just number 1 for a week or two.
That's what she said.
God damn it.
Sorry, I watched a lot of The Office last week. I couldn't. I'm sorry.
God, do not bring The Office into our podcast, please.
Don't tell me what to do, Josh. You're not my real dad.
But the last thing I'll say about the album in particular is I really think this is a turning point, namely because this is the first album cover that he appeared on with a sleeveless T-shirt. And pretty much every album after that, he's appeared on with a sleeveless T-shirt. So it really represents a very important sea change, if you will.
Don't you bring Beck into this. If you're going to talk to me about... Don't you dare bring Beck into this.
It was not intended to bring Beck into this conversation at all. I want to keep Beck as far away from this episode as possible. So before we start talking about the specifics of the song, is just to kind of go through how the country music recording industry sort of works. I think the first thing to point out is, and we kind of alluded to this with talking about that guy who thought Kenny Chesney wrote his own songs, but it's more common for other people to write songs for country music artists. In fact, I dug in a little bit into Chesney's songs. You can go look up who has songwriting credits on the various publishing websites. So Kenny Chesney, as I mentioned earlier, had 56 songs that appeared on the Billboard Hot 100. So I just looked at those just to kind of keep it simple. But of those 56, Kenny Chesney has writing credit on 10 of them. And only 2 of them, he actually has sole songwriting credit. I'm not going to go look at like Tim McGraw and all these other hot country acts to try to figure out a percentage, but I think it's probably safe to say that...
Hang on. It kind of follows it usually follows like a trend for me, especially with like Toby Keith, Alan Jackson, and like all the guys that were contemporaries, like right before he blew up with No Shoes, No Shirt, is that they, on their first records, they were doing a lot of the songwriting.
Right.
And then they quickly gravitated away from it after the first record.
Well, it's interesting because I think that's probably more often the case, but for Chesney, he started his career, as I mentioned earlier, with a songwriter's contract. So maybe he was wanting to do songwriting, but I think even his first album only had like 3 or 4 songs that he had songwriting credit on.
He must have not had the good stuff.
He must have not had the good stuff at that point. Hey, you remembered the song.
Wait, what?
But I think especially now, and as Hayden kind of pointed out, maybe for artists later in their career, it's probably, if you take just any one of their big singles or hits, it's probably more likely that they didn't write it than that they did write it. It also happens sometimes where, and I don't think Chesney did this, looking at the fact that he only had 10 on these 56 songs. A lot of times the artist will also, in order for them to agree to record a songwriter song, especially if it's like a newer songwriter, they'll say, okay, I'll record your song and make it a big hit, but you have to give me some of the songwriting credit.
Oh.
And so
I didn't know that.
a lot of times the artist will have a songwriting credit on a song that they didn't have anything to do with as far as actually writing it. And there's no way to like tell where that happens. I just know that I've read and heard that before. So needless to say, songwriting in Nashville is a real heavy cottage industry. There's just tons of publishing groups out there dedicated to discovery and promotion and production of songwriting for country artists. I mean, it's almost like 2 separate sort of groups. You have the songwriting people and then the recording artists themselves, which is obviously a much smaller group of people. And, as a result, I would say Nashville has like highly commodified songwriting. It's turned it into a well-oiled machine, which it's turning something what you could argue should be a purely artistic endeavor into more of a craft. I would kind of say is like, it's the difference between Van Gogh and then the guy who's really good at making copies of Van Gogh.
I kind of always think about the meat processing plant in the Pink Floyd video.
Oh yeah.
That's how I see Nashville. Man.
So there's a lot of guys out there that are just like hit makers. And in fact, the two guys who wrote the good stuff are two of like the biggest dudes in the Nashville songwriting scene. Guys named Craig Wiseman and Jim Collins. Jim Collins is a kind of not quite as big, not quite as prolific as Wiseman, but he's written and has #1 country hits for Tim McGraw, Chesney, George Strait, Jason Aldean. And Wiseman is really, though, like one of the big heavy hitter songwriters. He's written 26 #1 songs on Billboard's Hot Country chart, and he's written for tons of acts. I've got a list here, and these are only the ones that I recognize. It's really about 3 times as long as this, but Tim McGraw, Faith Hill, Brooks and Dunn, Leanne Rimes, Randy Travis, Trisha Yearwood. I mean, this guy has won a fuck ton of awards. ASCAP, one of the publishing groups, has named him Songwriter of the Year 3 times.
Did he write Honky Tonk Badunkadonk?
He did not write Honky Tonk Badunkadonk, as far as I know. I mean, I wouldn't.
Damn
you
it.
You go find his list on the ASCAP or BMI website that he has credits on. It's like hundreds. I think it's close to 400 songs this guy has credit on.
Mm.
He was named the Songwriter of the Decade by the Nashville Songwriters Association in 2009.
Oh, a most prestigious award.
Well, I mean, the NSAI is like if you're going to be a songwriter in Nashville, like you're a part of this trade group. So it is a big deal for Nashville.
Yeah.
He was inducted into the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame in 2015. He has won a Grammy. He wrote and won the Grammy in 2004 for Tim McGraw's Live Like You Were Dying.
Oh, that's a skydiving, Rocky Mountain climbing song? Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. But it won Best Country Song, but it also was nominated for just the general Song of the Year. So, I mean, that again is a huge crossover hit. But these two guys, Wiseman especially, there's a lot of videos of him out there talking about the writing process. And most of it is just a lot of rambling. You can barely understand the guy. But one thing I pulled out is that one video, he's giving a talk in a classroom, and he says to write what you like and listen to, saying that in most cases, what you like and listen to is, quote, 3-chord crap. So I think the point he's trying to make is that, you don't have to make songwriting complicated, keep it simple, but by referring to it as, quote, 3-chord crap, I mean, it's kind of, to me, dropping the veil that this style of songwriting is, again, like I said, highly commodified. It's just like, you don't need to think about it too much. Just, there you go, fart out a song, whatever.
Just strap in your truck, head out for some bucks, and the rest will come.
Pretty much. There's also, I recommend this to anyone who's interested enough to go look at. Apparently, someone thought it was a good idea to make a reality show with this guy and 3 other huge songwriting people. It's called The Hitmen of Music Row. And I could only find one video of it that was like 14 minutes long. But it is really just a bunch of drunk rednecks bullshitting around, writing dumb songs in their hotel room while they're drinking whiskey and smoking cigars.
I don't see what the problem is.
I don't really see a problem with it either, but you just have to watch this video. The Hitmen of...
Other than all of it.
Other than what is the result of all of it. So one last thing I'll say about this kind of what I'm calling the Nashville formula. I think, Hayden, I know you have. Blaine, you've probably seen, and there's probably listeners out there who are familiar with, like around 2014, 2015, this guy on the internet made the mashup of the 6 like current country hits the last several years. Different parts of the song were put together on top of each other and like stitched together, and it just sounded all the freaking same. Mm-hmm. So what I found was an article written around the time by a guy on CMT.com who was sort of criticizing it and defending the style of songwriting. This particular author, he's responding to the mashup. He says it's no big deal that these songs sound similar for various reasons, one of which being there's only 12 notes, so there's a limited combination of them. And that's dumb in my opinion. Rhythmic patterns are also finite, so there's bound to be repetition. But then the worst argument, he sums it up with the following quotes. Mainstream country music is a format within the country genre, and it has to be viewed in context. Like it or not, it is created with commercial goals in mind, just like the big Hollywood movies. People pay to go see superhero movies, so studios keep making superhero movies. Likewise, folks don't change the channel when songs about dirt roads and cold beers come on the radio, so record labels will keep making them. If it ain't broke, don't fix it is the idea here. And then continuing, he says, these songs were not meant to change anything. They were meant to fit in to what people already assume they will hear on the country radio. In that endeavor, they are completely successful.
He does a really good job of summarizing our beef with it, I think, is there's no artistic merit to it.
Well, that's the thing, is that that's why I brought this up, is that he's trying to defend it, but at the same time, in my mind, and probably all of us would agree that he's really just bringing up our exact criticisms and why a lot of people don't like this kind of music.
He really kind of did the job for us. I guess we can call it a day.
Yeah, that's it. See you guys.
Podcast over.
See you guys later. All right, see you, man.
And I'll give you one more quote from Craig Wiseman, the main songwriter here. This is from an article from Rolling Stone titled 14 Simple Rules for Writing a Country Hit. And one of them is to use pop music lyrics. And so Wiseman says, quote, I think one of the reasons country is so popular now is because that part of pop songwriting has come into it. You hear those repetitive hooks in songs by Florida Georgia Line and Luke Bryan. It can be so simple and so fun. It ain't freaking rocket surgery, man. It's just popular music.
Rocket surgery?
Yes, he specifically said rocket surgery.
Oh, that's awesome. Rocket surgery.
For anyone who's really interested, just search Craig Wiseman on YouTube, and this guy's bound to make you laugh.
In a good way? Is he also funny?
His publishing company is called
Big Loud. Big Loud Shirt. Which is very cool because he produces Big Loud shit.
Sounds like Guy Fieri.
He looks like the Guy Fieri of country music song.
Blaine, we have a rule in our podcast where you don't get to pronounce his name correctly. You can't say his name.
I heard, yes. Okay. Guy Ferrari.
Yes, he is the Guy Ferrari of country music.
Guy Ferngully. Wait, what song are we doing again?
The Good Stuff by Kenny Chesney.
Oh, okay, all right.
Not Tim McGraw, Kenny Chesney.
Are you sure?
I think so. I mean, I have a bunch of notes about the good stuff here that we can get into.
Okay. All right. Well, let's do that. Let's do that. Yeah.
So I'm gonna go through my problems first, because mine's mostly about just the way this particular song sounds specifically, and you can tell right up front. You get a little acoustic guitar riff intro.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah. I mean, shit, Blaine, why didn't you record it for him with just your voice?
That Soldier swag.
I don't know. I think that's the new way. That's the new wave of country, I think. I really do think that's the direction it's going to go in, is just people making noises with their mouths.
Like mouth trumpeting.
Mm-hmm.
It's a strong Keller Williams move.
I mean, it couldn't make it any worse. But anyway, the acoustic guitar, for people who don't know, you can record an acoustic guitar with its internal pickup, which is what you use to play live, or preferably you record it with a microphone. Because the issue that I have is that when you record with a pickup, which is what this song is doing, it gives it this really tinny, sort of cheap sound. And I mean, there really should be no reason. I mean, this is his 6th studio album. He's already a big star at this point. They should be recording this at a much higher quality with just a mix of microphones.
Oh, they're using a pickup in the studio?
Yeah, I mean, you can hear it. You can hear that quintessential, like, it's probably blended with an actual mic signal, but the fact that it's there at all,
it does sound very Taylor-ish.
is infuriating to me.
Like Taylor Churchy.
You might record like a scratch track with the pickup while, like, if the band's all playing together, but it should not be in the final product. It sounds so bad. And by the same token, I'm pretty sure that the piano sound in the song is the piano sample from an electric keyboard, which again is something that you would use on like a live stage or something. But
yeah, like a youth pastor vibe going on for sure.
Definitely. But I mean, you're a big Nashville recording artist. Record on an actual piano with microphones. So those two things, just about the sound quality of the song, kind of bothered me a lot. And then the second thing has to do with the instrumentation. And you can tell just by listening, but also if you watch the video, they're, featured in shots, but it's the fiddle player.
Boyd Tinsley?
Didn't look like Boyd Tinsley to me.
Oh. Okay. That's the only fiddle player I know.
I think you need to expand your horizons a little bit there. But we got a fiddle, we've got the pedal steel, and they're there. And this happens probably in like almost every kind of country ballad hit, but they're just there for the fact that it's a country song and you're supposed to have them. These are sort of melodic instruments that need to, if you're going to have them, play like a little riff or a melody somewhere to kind of actually come out and have a purpose. The violin's just playing long chordal notes the whole time. So it's just, why even have it? The answer to that is because it's a country song and you're just supposed to have one.
A lot of people send Hallmark cards to their grandmothers,
You just got to do it, right?
Yeah.
So the last kind of critique I have just about the sound of it, and I think, Hayden, we talked about this before recording, so I'll let you sort of go off on this. But, typically in a country song in this style, the electric lead guitar is a Fender Telecaster, which is very like quintessential.
Chicken picking, baby.
Yeah, chicken picking. It's got this twangy, like that's the twangy country sound that you hear.
Compressed as hell.
Yeah, compressed, which is a studio technique to kind of make it sound fuller and fatter. But we don't have that here in the good stuff. We have...
No, we don't. We got Nickelback's what we got going on.
Yeah, it's the Gibson Les Paul is what this guy's playing. And so it has...
The last thing a country song needs is dual humbuckers.
Exactly. That's what gives it its different sound, is the type of pickup. But... for people who aren't familiar with the guitar, it's the kind of sound that you would hear in like a 80s hair metal, kind of like screaming, high, soaring solo.
It's very butt rocky.
It's very butt rocky. So it just, I really think I would have liked the song a little bit more, or at all, if it just had a couple of tasty Telecaster licks. But no, it had this really lame sort of, like we said, butt rock sound.
Maybe Blaine will agree with me here, but I had the theory that, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Kenny Chesney started this trend with this kind of more rock and roll, for lack of a better term, guitar tone at this time that was very much so copied in the years to follow, and is still being done to this day in like little short bursts in like modern country. But that's the first time I remember hearing like what is clearly not a Telecaster taking the lead. What do you think about that, Blaine?
There's a clear line. It doesn't start with him, but to me, he signifies the explosion of that. I think you can probably trace it back to like a Billy Ray Cyrus, Achy Breaky Heart, something.
Has that got more of a rock and roll solo?
I honestly can't remember. A lot of these things I try to block out of my mind. But it definitely has such a much more muscular feel than a country song should probably have.
Just like his arms.
He's all about them muscles.
Makes me think of Chad Kroger.
But then again, what doesn't these days, right?
Oh God. Yeah, I knew that it may not have started exactly with him, but it's the first time I remember it being so popularized and like being on the radio. And I remember being confused by it even in high school. Like, what's going on with the guitar sound here? It's kind of odd.
And it's that the Telecaster country sound is. Again, I don't listen to this music, but I'm assuming that it's probably completely gone from the pop country genre at this point.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
Been gone.
Yeah.
You're not even getting a Stratocaster.
I think that this song, but more so Kenny Chesney himself, signifies country really going full-on pop, that it's just no longer country anymore. You had tastes of that happening with... Really, Garth Brooks made that explosion, but they took it and ran with it and commercialized it and commodified it, like you guys were talking about, and turned it into a factory where Garth wasn't quite doing that. And then, you got folks like Alan Jackson dabbling in some of that stuff. Your Billy Ray Cyrus went full in as long as he lasted. But Chesney, to me, is sort of that turning point, that bridge between not just pop country, but bro country.
Flip-flop country.
Yeah, yes, which is probably a better descriptor. He's not quite that bro thing, which I loathe. But my disdain for this song isn't incredibly as high as it probably could be.
Come on, you could try.
No, I mean it's bad. It's bad. Trust me. But when he came on the scene in '94, I hadn't graduated high school, and I remember all the girls going wild for the music, and by then I was out of country completely, and I remember thinking, what do you hear in this? I don't get it. And it was slick, and there was no sentiment to it.
Well, I would argue that there's not sentiment artistically to it, but it is packed full of sentiment for the masses in the story that it tells. Yeah.
It's shooting for that, but it falls flat, which I wanted to get into as well. It's generic, bland bullshit, and this encapsulates that a little bit. But he was doing it as far back as 94, 96.
Well, let me interject here, since we're going into this territory now of talking particularly about the song. I wanted to kick it off here with this quote from Rolling Stone. It kind of summarizes everything that I wanted to say for me. Kenny Chesney, a man who once sang about his sexy tractor, fancies Hallmark card country propped up by clean pop metal guitars and bright firecracker drums. Yeah,
the sexy tractor was the my high school, early college one that really was like, no, man, this is a turn for the worse.
Just so we're clear here for the listeners, the name of the song is "She Thinks My Tractor's Sexy."
And I remember hearing that and thinking, I don't want that.
Well, it's funny because one of the guys that wrote the good stuff also wrote "She Thinks My Tractor's Sexy." Jim Collins, and the funny thing is, so he wrote "She Thinks My Tractor's Sexy" for Chesney, but Collins also wrote "Big Green Tractor" for, I think, Jason Aldean.
Big Green Tractor? That one also exists?
Yeah, Collins has got the tractor-related songs. He's got it locked down, man.
I gotta look this up.
Blaine, you mentioned, I think previously, that you had something to say about the lyrics for this song in particular.
Yeah, and I'd say 2002 is also around the time that Chesney was very huge and doing this thing where he would wear football jerseys of whatever town he was in. Mm-hmm. And nothing says, please love my little man.
Dingus is what you're looking for.
My little man Dingus, then pandering to a crowd of bros with their sports team jersey. And idiots in Tuscaloosa lapped it up, and it insulted my intelligence. He'd come to Tuscaloosa once a year, maybe sometimes twice.
I'll interrupt you here. If you go to the Wikipedia page for Kenny Chesney discography, the picture it has is him playing at the Jupiter in an Alabama jersey.
Wearing a University of Alabama jersey, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And Josh and I talked about this earlier in the week, and I, for multiple reasons, can't remember if I went to it or not, but I think that I did.
You were there?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, but I can't be certain.
Well, I think it was a picture from 2007, maybe. So
I know that I would. I'm pretty sure I went to that.
You would have been 21, I guess, and so probably just
I was in there sucking down vodka Red Bulls and dancing in my Birkenstocks.
Cool.
Tipping my Calcutta visor to the ladies at the bar.
Yeah.
Salt life.
I will give credit to this particular song to refocus it back to the song itself, is that it is not bro country, but the groundwork's starting to be laid with this.
Mm-hmm. The Yellow Bro Road, if you will.
Yeah. The song itself, let me start here. Let me get this straight. The speaker fights with his wife. It's the first fight they've ever had, no less. And he tries to go out and get a drink because he left home. And the bartender won't serve him. What makes him not say, I'm taking my business elsewhere? That should be there's the end of the song right there.
I don't want your goddamn milk, old man.
I walked into the bar, he wouldn't serve me, so I turned around and walked out. There's your song. And it's a much better one.
Agreed.
Anyway, the speaker then, and here's our title. The speaker asks the bartender for the good stuff, and the bartender nearly starts crying. Shut the fuck up, dude. Do your job. You know what makes me cry?
Pour the man some Fireball.
Yeah. You know what makes me cry? Poor service. Just you need to take a day off to grieve, dude. Don't bring that shit to work. Does this place not give you paid time off, man? Come on, get your head up off the bar. Anyway, so it's corny, is what we're getting.
Pick your head up off the bar and nibble on some sponge cake already.
You got Jimmy Buffett playing, for Christ's sake. Come on.
Why is Danny DeVito coming into my bar to sit down?
So this song does represent a lot of, as I mentioned, of that early instances of what becomes bro country with the listing country song, which, Josh, you're very familiar with. You even have you and Hayden, didn't you spoof this at one time where you just list a bunch of shit?
Oh, Lord.
It sounds like something Hayden's done in the past.
No, you did, like drinking in my truck or drinking in my driveway.
Drinking in my driveway.
We had a classic hit, Drinking in My Driveway, yeah.
So, it's my boat, my truck, my dog, my beer, my whiskey, my pecker, my dirt road. It's real easy to mimic.
Funny you should bring that up because Hayden actually wrote something this morning just for this very instance. He wrote it for you, Blaine.
I did, and I did in fact write a country song for you, Blaine.
Are we saving it, or are we hearing it now?
He's gonna play it for you right now, buddy.
I'm going to play it for you right now. I think it's time. Give me a moment to readjust here. And Blaine,
could you use the pickup, please? Could you use the pickup? Don't play straight.
I'm going direct into my Amazon mic. Okay. Okay. This song is called "Marry That Girl." I seen you across the bar last Thursday, tipping glass with that old boy from Birmingham. But I got something he don't, babe. A big 4WD and a solid gold wedding band. It's in my hand. And I got a skull can crease in my Wrangler jeans. Your big doe eyes looking up at me, just like they do when I glance at you in church. A big buffet lunch with my family clan. A buttered yeast rolls at Ryan's, man. I see your face in every bite I take. And I pray to myself, dear God, please let me marry this girl.
Oh, man.
Yes?
It's a little scary how spot on that is. You need to get that on MP3, email it to Chess Wiseman, the guy Fieri of country music, and yeah, I would imagine he could tweak it here and there, and you got yourself some money.
But do you want to hear the second half now?
Oh yeah, for sure. I thought that was it because you redid the intro.
I walked you to your car last Sunday. The Alabama breeze was blowing through your hair. But inside I was a mess, babe, when you smiled and said you'd had enough of Birmingham. Please take my hand, 'cause I got a skull can crease in my Wrangler jeans. Your big doe eyes looking up at me, just like they do when I glance at you in church. I might have splattered truck into trophy bucks. I never did like to read that much, but I think about my Bible every day. And I pray to myself, dear God, I'm gonna marry that girl.
Oh, God, fuck.
That's almost too good. It's almost too good to be a parody. there's almost subtext to that song, which you're not going to find in any of these that we're talking about, like the good stuff. There's no subtext.
Well, I didn't write it as a parody.
Oh, you're trying to make
I wanted to illustrate how easy it is to do this.
Oh, yeah, for sure. These songs, much like you did there at times, they rely on these stereotypes, but none of the stereotypes are that interesting. Like, they don't mention, I'm anti-abortion and I hate immigrants. You know, it's not...
They leave that to the imagination.
Yeah, I want to hear more about this. Why are you thinking these two contrasting thoughts? Instead, you get, I got a truck, I got a skull in my pocket. You know, it's like, what do our listeners do? They drink on Saturday night on dirt roads
and plow through Peach Timberwolf, baby.
Apparently so. And I get that a lot of those stereotypes are present in old country as well, but they were so less manufactured and more story-based, I think, in my opinion. I don't know. But I want to bring us to the line that talks about this speaker dropping a ring in a spaghetti plate. Why the hell are they holding rings over spaghetti plates?
Yeah, and also, if you're about to propose to a girl, don't go to fucking Olive Garden here.
I don't imagine him going to that much trouble. I see them at home. He made it for her, or she made it for him.
It's got way too much ground beef in it.
Yeah, yeah, that kind. Ugh. And and what the fuck? He's not down on one knee holding it up. He just hands it to her over a plate of spaghetti and it falls. This piece of shit.
It is pretty lazy.
And then he goes on. Well, I don't know if he made the spaghetti or not, because he goes on in the song to say that he's eating burnt suppers for the rest of. Or is this the bartender who says this is the good stuff?
He's talking about eating burnt suppers the whole first year, which that kind of stood out to me as like, yeah, she's a new wife. She hadn't quite figured out her role of being a good cook.
Oh Lord, yeah. Talk about concerning.
And I want to go ahead and tell you, I don't give a damn who's cooking the supper. If it's burnt, that's not the good stuff. That's the opposite of the good.
Nor is fucking whole milk. It's made for cows, dude.
The second verse offers the bartender, which you're even talking about, grabbing a glass of milk. I'm sorry. Look, I don't drink. I'll put that out there. But fucking milk? You don't have coffee, water, Red Bull? This bartender fucking sucks, man.
I think I'd rather drink tap water out of the bathroom sink before I accepted a glass of milk from a bartender.
If you go into a bar and he tries to serve you milk, leave right then and there, because that
something bad is coming.
He's jerked off in that milk.
Whoa, boy.
So then we get to the speaker noting a picture of the bartender's dead wife.
I thought I was the crass one.
Oh, no.
Not today, buddy. Not today.
So we get the dead wife hanging on the wall. Not literally, a picture.
Oh, no.
Which is apparently a true story, right? Josh, you kind of looked this up, right?
Yeah, it was the story of the guy losing his wife to cancer was based, I think, the security guard at the music publishing office that the two writers were meeting at to work on this song.
Oh, so they appropriated the fucking story. It's not even Chet Weissman's wife.
No, it's not. It's just a random guy they knew.
Let me tell you another quick story, speaking of people dying of cancer. If you're sober and hanging out and working 3 years in a bar as a bartender, that milk ain't going to cut it after a little while, brother. He's going to reach for the bottle at some point. He needs another job.
Yeah.
So the Biden administration needs to take care of this sober bartender and provide jobs.
Maybe he'd be more fit to farm life.
And this is exactly what I thought. Speaking of crass, this is what I thought about the line, holding her hand as she died. That is not the good stuff.
That's bad.
People dying that you love is bad. I've been there. You don't look back and go, man, that was good.
Give me some heavy cream.
Yeah, give me some milk. That shit was good. Being there for someone who's dying, of course, is very good and very nice and comforting, I'm sure, for everyone. But holding her hand as she died, the way it's phrased in the song, it needed a pass through. They needed to revise that one.
Yeah, it was a bit awkward. I agree.
And this song doesn't mention cocaine, serenity, relaxation, having your bills paid, not getting the medical bills from the cancer diagnosis, having a dog. No good stuff. There's really no good stuff in this song. The goddamn meals are burned. Spaghetti's probably got too much sauce in it.
It's got 2 pounds of ground chuck, baby. Angus.
Oh man.
But I will say that I am a little forgiving for the grandpa line. There is one line in there that does seem like it gets a little bit of a nod from me where I think, okay, it's kind of a good thing. The grandpa line about being, because from what I understand, being a grandparent is supposedly a good part of life. So I'll give them a slide on that one.
I'm going to interject here because this is a perfect segue into my YouTube section.
Yes.
Hayden's famous YouTube section.
The fact that it's about a family member dying is a source of great conversation on the YouTube comment section for this video. And I will admit, I actually read every single one of them this time.
Oh God, why?
I had a couple beers and I couldn't stop.
I'm interested in this, honestly.
So I got a lot to say about it, but I didn't take down any quotes, but they were just like, I mean, a literal million people talking, like sharing memories of their loved ones and like talking about how much peace this song brings them and bullshit like that. Which, okay, well, before I get to that point, I'm just going to read you some highlights. But I have an overarching point to this that we'll get to at the end. But let's hit the good stuff here.
Oh, hey.
So highlight number 1, I just love Kenny Chesney, man. His voice and his songs just make me want to be a better person.
Okay. Fair.
Good for you, buddy.
Good for you, buddy. What brand of milk you got in the freezer? Did I say fridger?
You said freezer.
Freezer, right by the speaker. This one really bothered me. When I was a lot younger, I always thought he said, asking for sex to keep her from tearing up. And I thought he was talking about his mom. So I always plugged my ears when this song would come on the radio and my mom would look at me real funny. After a while, I realized why.
That guy needs a therapist.
I want to point out, so the lyric he's talking about is, and asking for seconds to keep from tearing up. Like as in seconds from the dinner plate, not sex from his mother.
Because her job as a woman is sucking. So he has to ask for seconds to keep her from tearing up. Because that's what women do. They just cook and cry.
That's all they're capable of, it seems, if you read these lyrics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So another highlight here. When I get married, I already know how to cook because my mom learned me good stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Except how to speak. That's literally what they said, except how to speak. It's not nice self-awareness from Andy.
Okay.
One more highlight, and then we'll move on to the point I'm trying to make with this. But yep, that's the good stuff. 2 divorces in, and I would do it all over again if I could. I think this guy's really missing the point here.
That reminds me of the old Willie Nelson joke. Speaking of good country, the old Willie Nelson joke. You know why divorce is so expensive?
Why's that?
Because it's worth it.
I think this guy's really missing the point of the song, though. Excited about multiple divorces.
I'd do it all again.
Do it all again, baby. Hell yeah. Shit. But anyway, so I've been through a lot of YouTube comment sections at this point. And we all know there's always a lot of thumbs downs on any video. Like a certain amount of people are going to dislike it no matter what you're doing. And something, a huge trend that I noticed in this particular comment section is that almost all of these people are getting really angry about the fact that the song got thumbs down. I mean, like, this does not happen on Dave Matthews, Chili Peppers, like all sorts of like pretty bad songs I've looked at. In this case, all of these people were unwilling to accept that someone could possibly think this song is bad.
Oh, they're going to love this podcast.
Yeah. I just think it speaks to a lot about conservative Christian-based thinking, especially what we've seen in the media and like our country as of late, is that they are offended and cannot comprehend anyone who cannot idealize this lifestyle and this way of thinking and this wholesome way of viewing the world, and they won't have anything about they won't have anything about it. It's just fucking crazy. I think it speaks a lot about the state of our country. Just the comment section of this YouTube page.
I'm with you, man, and I don't find this song that offensive. I know this song sucks, and we picked a song I don't necessarily kind of falls in my mid range of hate. I'm changing the channel if it comes on. I'm changing the radio station. Luckily, I don't rely on radio much anymore, but I'm changing the station if I hear this song. But it's not as awful as where the trajectory of country went very quickly after this, or right around the time period of this.
It's not your Florida Georgia line.
No,
whom I hate, and it's not the what was the one you mentioned earlier that I've also absolutely despise, honky tonk badonkadonk. Talk about pandering.
Margaritaville.
Margaritaville's okay.
Margaritaville's a banger. I love that song.
I mean, that's fine, yeah. I'm also a little forgiving of the final verse where he mentioned something about apologizing, and that's considered good. And I'm like, okay, that is a good thing. Now, get your listeners to agree with that.
Well, the fact that your first reaction to getting in a big fight with your significant other is to go find a bar. You know, maybe just take a chill pill at home and then talk to them.
Yeah, step outside and take a deep breath, bro.
That's true.
You don't have to leave the house.
But there would be a depth to that, right? There would be this certain complexity about life that it would be saying beyond what it just threw out there that is not complex.
Yeah.
Yeah, like maybe you're having an internal conversation with yourself and self-reflecting in order to make amends with your wife rather than going to a random bar and having an old man serve you milk.
Jesus Christ. That guy, why is he serving milk?
Man, at least give me a milkshake. At least a milkshake,
The owner
bro.
of that bar needs to know about this dude serving milk to people who come in for whiskey.
I bet we could find out what bar it is in the video and contact the owner.
So the video, do we want to talk about how the guy looked nothing like you probably pictured when you listened to the song? The bartender doesn't?
I didn't watch the video. I just read the comments.
I watched the video, and he's like kind of happy and jovial grandpa looking. He's not some beaten, ragged guy who's forcing milk on people when they're begging for a drink of whiskey.
He looks like the butler from Twin Peaks. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about? He brings Dale Cooper a glass of milk, doesn't
Yeah,
he, Blaine?
He does, but he doesn't
Man.
look like that.
Oh, he
Because
doesn't?
that guy's got some creepiness.
There's one point in the video where the old bartender, like, he's having a conversation with Chesney sitting there on the stool, and he puts both his hands on top of Kenny Chesney's hand, like he's, like, reassuring and talking to him.
Hell no, man. Hell no.
And I'm saying, if you're a complete stranger, like an old bartender who's serving me milk, it's like, do not touch me, please.
Well, when that happened, I kept thinking, make out. Just make out. So, yeah, the whole presentation is so saccharine and horribly done with no rawness or complexity that it robs it of any pathos. I know we've joked about the wife dying of cancer. That is sad and serious, and I fucking hate cancer, and it sounds so horrible. But blame the songwriter, not me, because it's robbed of any emotional heft it could have.
Right. I think it kind of goes back to what Hayden was saying with the, just being baffled by fans of this song, just being unable to comprehend why someone wouldn't like it. And I think that kind of speaks to the general lack of self-awareness maybe that you would need to not understand that these stories are really just presented to you like a Hallmark card.
That the majority of this country doesn't live in Trustville, Alabama.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could talk about where someone's from, but the thing is, like, it goes back to what I was saying with these guys are talking about songwriting. It's not it's not complicated. You just put a couple lyrics about trucks and, your granddaddy
Trophy bucks.
dying of cancer or whatever, and trophy bucks, and you got it. And the reason that I think that a lot of people keep listening to this stuff that is just a paint by the numbers kind of songwriting is because the industry doesn't give them anything with, like you're saying, Blaine, emotional heft or nuance.
Exactly.
Right.
And you don't have, I mean, we can all like or dislike music for how lyrically or emotionally complex it is, but with this kind of music that its intention is to elicit some sort of emotional response, the fact that it is so cookie cutter just kind of makes it disingenuous.
Totally. And I know we're getting at time, so I want to close out with just saying that I agree with Blaine in that I really don't hate this song or think that it sucks. I'd probably change the channel. My major problem is what it's responsible for.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
What it caused to happen is much more egregiously offensive than the song itself. So I hate the song for that reason, but the song itself is whatever. It doesn't offend me. It's lame.
Yeah, it's pretty bland. I recommend listeners, if you still don't see the comedy in the song, go watch the video and just the parts of Kenny Chesney lip syncing, and he's got this early aughts style going with a really tight black wife beater and then some really way too baggy jeans.
No, they're not jeans. This is what this is what kind of goes into the Jimmy Buffett island lifestyle. He's wearing
Tell me more.
He's wearing white linen like tie-off pants.
That's the issue then. I thought he was wearing like hip hop baggy jeans of the early aughts.
No, he's got just really free and clear with just looseness of the linen pants. You know, he doesn't want to be restricted by those Wranglers.
I guess that's for his Johnson, isn't it?
I guess so.
All right.
You know what they say, little guy, big Johnson. Excuse me, dingus.
Yes, the official Blaine, if you don't know the official term for the man's member for our podcast, is dingus. We've decided that.
I got you. All right.
Well, I guess that's a good place as any to wrap up.
Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
It's the good stuff, man.
That's the good stuff, man. Well, as always, Hayden, thank you for joining us. Blaine, thank you so much for joining us as well and bringing us this absolutely mediocre song.
It's been a pleasure.
To talk about. Yeah, if you're a fan of this podcast, I suggest listening to his, what would you call it, a pop culture podcast, Taking It Down?
Yeah, we cover a lot of TV and movies. Just riff on them a little, dissect them.
If you thought Blaine was hilarious as I did, and Adam Marr, our usual third host, is also on the show frequently, and of course the irrepressible Donovan, who is sure to always bring some shenanigans. So again, thanks guys, and we'll see y'all next time. This Song Sucks is brought to you by The Alabama Take. Follow us on Instagram at This Song Sucks Pod and on Twitter at SucksPod. You can also find us on the Alabama Take Facebook page. Comments, hate mail, and song suggestions for future shows can be sent to thisSongSucksPod@gmail.com.